Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey everybody, Militiaman and Crew. It is Monday night, and I want to say thank you for everybody for being with us. All I want to say too is I was noticing that, one of the things that we do here in Patreon and with Discord is that we go over hundreds and hundreds of pages of data. And so some of those things that we see that not everybody gets out in, in the public arena, have the in-depth amount of information that I get through my head. And so when I say radical changes, radical solutions, radical this, radical that, to be fair, it is, because that's what they're going through. So, you know what, please give me a little bit of grace out there, because the fact remains is that Iraq is filthy with wealth. They're filthy with their revenue streams. They're going to be filthy with employment. They're going to be doing massive amounts of stuff. So when I say radical, it's true. Is there going to be a radical change at some point in their currency? I believe so. Think about it just for a second, what a radical change is. From 1310 to 500, for instance, would be a radical change. But is that what I expect? No, I expect significantly different than that. And so when I talk about radical changes, they're happening. Are they talking about it global? Sure they are. Why? Who's talking? The World Trade Organization, the World Bank, the Bank of International Settlements. They were at Davos. They were doing all these different things. I've been over this numerous times. So hey, if you would please just enjoy the data, because we have so much of it, and to fine-tune me down to a specific science. That's not what we're here for. What I'm here for is to give you the data. I read the news. I do the best that I can, the way that I do it, and I hope everybody understands that I'm not perfect, and if I come off in a way that was a little bit too much for everybody, hey, please forgive me. I don't mean to be misleading or anything like that. I try to give the best information, the best that I can. And interestingly enough, there are radical solutions, and that's directly coming from articles. So a lot of this stuff is directly in articles. And again, if you're not keeping up with all these pages and pages and pages of data, you can see how, it's not easy. So, but thank you everybody. Enough of that. In brief, the electronic payment systems, what are they talking about? The Association of Private Banks recorded an increasing demand for electronic payment cards. Why is that important? Well, they were at this Baghdad fair, and what were they talking about? They were trying to help and get people to do what? Open up bank accounts, and they're being very successful. And what are they saying? And it says the desire from the public to know the advantages of electronic payments have increased. What is it doing? It's bringing confidence. It says that there is an extremely important matter that brings back the hope of strengthening the public's bank's relationships, with the people. And so that's big, because what we talked about, this 10,000 a day, millions this year alone have been opened. Accounts have been opened. So what they're trying to do is get this international smart card with the smart card company to support global performance in what they do. They just want to get this smooth and efficient, and this Baghdad fair seems to be creating an environment that it's in harmony with the directions of the government and the Central Bank of Iraq for what? Making financial transactions to take place in electronic platforms and systems. It says that they found there's a large influx of public support for the banks, and in this pavilion that they have been working with at the fairs, did what? They showed the reality of the electronic banking systems and the mechanisms for dealing with it. So when we talk about radical solutions, we're talking about electronic, going from paper. We're talking about people carrying around bricks of money. We're talking about radical solutions, radical changes. And what's going to change that? Right? To have coins, for instance, if you're going to have metal currencies, and we talked about that, wouldn't that be a radical change, radical solution? Wouldn't that be a radical change in value for currencies? Absolutely. It's all data that you guys have seen and heard. So keep it in mind that what we're seeing is going to be somewhat radical. The Republic of Abdul Latif Jamal Rashid, Prime Minister, and Muhammad Shia Sadani. What do they talk about today? Sustaining the achieved security. They want to sustain the security. What do we need for these radical changes and these solutions that I've been talking about? They need to have stability, security and stability, and they're talking about it, and they're talking about what they reviewed are the results of the participation in Davos, Economic Forum in Switzerland. And what are they talking about? They were talking about their delegations participating in what? International financial institutions. Well, we all talked about who's going to bring the confidence. We've been through that confidence. It says they're going to consolidate their cooperation, which is going to serve their mutual interests. So everybody's getting ready to go. They're pretty much talking about what else? Providing services, improving the standards of living of the citizens, of course. They're going to provide sustainable and suitable environment for investment. That's globally. Building and rebuilding a country. So we all know that what that's going to take is going to take all kinds of materials, electricity, power poles, gas stations, all that stuff. They go on to say that the meeting touched on the necessity of addressing the joint files between the federal government and the Iraqi Kurdistan government. So that's interesting that they're bringing this up, because we're going to see stuff in the is that the Kurdistan region and the government need to make some deals, and deals in the sense of being fair and being up and on board with doing things properly. They need to be having accountability, okay? And that's what they're talking about. They're talking about guaranteeing these rights for the citizens and securing the strength of their livelihoods. So mismanaging money, not paying salaries on time, not dispersing oil revenues, non-oil revenues. All of those things are in the news today, and you're probably going to see that the judiciary is after the Barzanis, and we'll have to see how they play out. But remember Fahoud Hussein, who said that they had cut a deal with the Kurds prior to Wednesday of last week, because that was a Monday, a week from prior to today, that they had cut a deal about the oil. So look for some more radical changes and some of those solutions that they've been talking about, and what the effects are going to be, because those effects are going to be profound when it comes to the currency exchange rate. That's how I see it. It says the Finance Committee, and yesterday said Sunday, the Ministry of Finance, in which many topics were discussed related to the changes that will be made in 2024 budget. So they're working on something now because they haven't finished 2023. It says the allocations for rations and social care. So what is that? That's taking care of the citizens, rations and social care. That means that they're going to have to make changes for them to make sure that they have allocations that will be related to many different things, whether that's going to be the electricity sector and or even oil production. All of that stuff is going to come into play for that social care for Iraq and their citizens, whether it's retirees, etc. But everybody's going to be on a level playing field. They all need to have the same amount of equity into all of the things that are going to be done. I think it's going to be really powerful in the next few days to the end of the year. We're going to have to watch and see what they do, but they actually showing us specific things. They talk about amendments to the budget, which will happen in the next part of the year. But again, the next part of this next year, which is now, right now, from 2023, is what they've said, that they were going to finish that up, and hopefully they'll finish up 23 and expose that hopefully between now and the first part of this next month. And that's what they're saying. So to me, some of these conditions that we're seeing now is phenomenal. It says here that the Financial Supervision Board, they announced today that there was a completion of auditing the names of employees in the Kurdistan region. Well, that's pretty powerful, is it not? It says what's powerful about it is that the Kurds can't lie anymore about how many citizens are getting paid. They have to have an audited situation so that they can pay everything fairly. It says stressing the work at increasing pace to complete the final accounts for 3 years. So they're going to back up, make sure that everything from 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, all the way up to present. It says we will work on increasing a pace to achieve the accumulative effect, and send them to the House of Representatives for approval. So basically, they're focused in on what? The salaries. They have an audit for it. Tafe Sammy is the finance minister. The Financial Supervision Authority basically announced that they have completed it. It says the Financial Supervision Bureau completed the audit of the names of the employees in the Kurdistan region with a specified time within 30 days, and then the results of the audit were sent to the Council of Ministers. So this didn't get just started today. They've already completed it, and it had 30 days. And so basically what we're seeing is that it's been sent to the Council of Ministers, and we're going to watch this result. Today's what, the 22nd? So the month's not over. Let's see how this works out. Another thing that they're talking about is that the Sudanese advisor reveals the government's vision to reform the economy and not depend on oil. Well, that's fascinating, isn't it? We've been talking about non-oil revenues, the Iscutta system. We've been talking about all that stuff. And here again, what are they talking about? Radical solutions. Advisor to the Prime Minister, Mohammed Saleh, says, what are they talking about? Activate non-oil resources in the country of Iraq, while stressing that the Prime Minister will be the basic nucleus of this strategic partnership between the state and the private sector. That's what Davos was about. They talked about who was there. Was the government set it up? Private sector basically funded it. For what? To imply that they're going to be that backbone and they have a partnership with the private sector going forward. I would suggest, if you haven't read up on some of these things and some of these things I'm talking about, and get the full meaning of what's going on, I suggest you come into Patreon and read all the data that I have, because all this stuff is news that Super Samson brings us. We have people in our forum. We have people that are in our Discord chat room that'll help you get in. I think it's a wonderful place. Samson, there's Gigi, there's Sunkissed, Pompey Peter, Petra, and many, many more. So if I left somebody out, please forgive me. They go on to say that the private sector, they're basically looking at activating the partnership between the state and the private sector, because they're going to use what? They're going to use the human resources, and they're going to use the material resources of the country, which are the foundation for this and to serve the Renaissance. They're going to build new. They're going to rebuild this country. What are they going to build? Manufacturing industries, other non-natural resources, non-oil natural resources, which will be important, and they're going to be legislated through what? The economic reform law that's apparently in place, and which has made its way up to the House of Representatives. But I have to say that most of these things that we're talking about now at this stage of the game are probably ironed out to the degree that it's not something we're waiting for years on end to keep pounding away at. He points out that we achieve through the state's support from the investment, the private sector projects themselves, especially those that operate jobs and generate value-added chains on a large scale. And on the launch of the partnership projects in manufacturing industries, they have sovereign guarantees. If you guys would read up on sovereign guarantees, the state's going to guarantee certain things, which are consistent with Iraq's entry into the industrial age. It's a modern digital technology. So over the next 5 years, these guys are going to be knocking it out of the park. You're going to have nothing but countries coming in. The Baghdad Fair, it was phenomenal. As far as I could tell, they had 850 to 1,000 different companies there, and the results were, I think, amazing. And we're going to find out about this one. It says here, the Working Party chair visits Baghdad to hold high-level consultations on Iraq's secession. Now, granted, this was dated on the 16th, but a lot of people really didn't quite grasp the reality of it, is that the accession process has been underway, and they're emphasizing the importance of the accession process to advance Baghdad's economic reforms. It says the government of Iraq affirmed its full commitment to an early resumption of the process by enacting the necessary economic and legal reforms. So if you go back in history, you know that they got started probably 2003 to 2004. They did some things specifically in 2008. They go on to say that al-Nusri, I think it was, is that he stated in 2008 in a meeting with President Abdul Latif Rashid, who's there, today, still there, is Iraq's keenness to join the WTO by achieving the commercial and economic standards, and highlighted the work of the Iraq's National Committee on the WTO accession to prepare for the formal resumption. So fast forward to basically today. They go on to suggest that this ambassador, Al-Mukbel, he appointed as chair back in June of 2023, stressed the strategic importance of Iraq's accession for the WTO membership, especially of the Arab region, which is currently one of the most underrepresented organizations in the region. It says Iraq is one of the largest economies which remains outside the multilateral trading system. Right, Iraq is not in at the moment, but are they going to be? Of course. WTO membership for Saudi Arabia, which they joined in 2005, they're giving what? They're giving their support. They basically are stating that Iraq's integration into the global economy through the WTO membership can deepen regional economic integration. Now, everybody's like going, well, do you need to have the WTO done? Well, what are they doing? The World Trade Organization is going to have integration meetings in the 26th to the 29th of February. Integration's after the fact. Accession takes place prior to having integration. We can see the data that they're talking about. These working groups, when that means a working group, means you're not a part of a working group unless you have accession. Why would you be a working group into the WTO if you're not in? It's really simple, so everybody needs to read the articles and pay attention, because a lot of the buzzwords that I use in my YouTubes come from the articles. And so if you don't have a deep understanding, look, Patreon's filthy with information. We have over a year and a couple of months worth of fresh data, and the experience that comes from all of us being around in this reading news and analyzing news is not just 1 year. It's been 7 to 10 years just for me. Giving my free time for 7 years. So keep in mind that what we do now is a little bit different. It's a little more in depth, and what we're talking about is integration. And integration, Iraq is getting ready for that integration. I believe that the support from Saudi Arabia and other countries is phenomenal, and they are a big player in the Middle East. For them to come public with the support from the WTO, for them to have a session in the WTO, take it seriously. And is it radical? Yeah, it's radical. Has it ever happened before? No. So what? Yeah, keep in mind. It says here that the action plan updated information on agricultural domestic support and questionnaires on import licensing and customs valuations. Well, if you have any idea what customs valuations are, what the WTO is talking about is an exchange rate. Exchange rate changes. How many countries are there going to be? Isn't that going to be kind of radical for the world to see like 10 or 12 or 14 countries have a session into the WTO on or around the same time? So where is that major announcement that Saleh was talking about that's going to happen? We haven't quite seen that yet, have we? We haven't quite seen a radical solution to the 2023 budget not having any money spent. We haven't seen any of the radical solutions to take care of those employee salaries yet, have we? No, we haven't. What we're seeing is that lack of loans, and we're seeing them not producing loans for what? They even shut the loans down today for those people that are in need. Because of what? We're at the end of the year? No, we're at the end of January, and they haven't paid the salaries yet. So start thinking about it in terms of radical. Who else is involved in this? The chairman also with representatives of the European Union, the United States, and who else? The International Trade Center. They're all what? Talking about technical assistance for Iraq. And why? For the resumption of the accession work. Completely underway. Listen, here's a snippet from the WTO. It says customs valuation is a customs procedure applied to determine the customs value of imported goods. If the rate of duty is ad valorem, the customs value is essential to determine the duty to be paid on imported goods. So if you guys go into our room, you get some links. You're going to be able to see some, not all, but some. You'll find that, or you just go to the WTO site and look up some of these buzzwords and you'll get the picture. You're going to see like, wow, these guys are farther along than we ever imagined. Things are different than we've ever seen before. And here today, this last part about Davos, I believe, it says Iraq in the future. It says Iraq is an undisputed land of opportunity due to the extent of the need to rebuild a country that possesses enormous untapped wealth. I think that's massive, okay? It fits that radical stage, right? It says here, the Prime Minister says, he goes, I mean exclusively related to the economy and its financial and investment aspects, which we capture through various media outlets, that they reflect the extent of the Iraq's interest and desire for the need to expand the circle of partnerships with interested countries. And let us say those searching for investment opportunities. It appears that the government delegation's movement is solid in this important aspect and has achieved an important achievement. So this Davos meeting means that they've done things that they were to achieve, and they say they have important achievements. And so let's see where they end up going. But the bottom line is that they want to engage the private sector with the public sector. And like I said before, they did this as a new and different system that basically will show that there's a positive spin on all of it. And there has been. And this particular author is suggesting that there will be a significant amount of articles relating to the private sector and achieving the construction and the development plans that they have in the future. And they will be reporting on it in future articles. So obviously, there's a big movement on the news, the positive spin on where we're headed. It's not something about that's going to take forever. Here, this article specifically states that Trade holds a meeting with the General Authority of Customs and the International Trade Center. Department of Foreign Economic Relations and the Ministry of Commerce held a joint meeting with the General Authority of Customs and International Trade. We talked about customs valuations, right? Here again, this is what they're talking about. Customs valuations. To have customs valuations, you need to what? An exchange rate to be able to facilitate the ability to be able to value something. You can't just say, well, I'm going to have 200 billion barrels of oil for 30 years and we're going to just adjust it at 13.10 and just move on. No, you're going to have a reasonable or a real effective exchange rate. The World Trade Organization comes in and says the subsequent steps of submitting required technical files that were completed before the subcommittee, and as well as the work plan for the 2024. So I'll read it again. World Trade Organization and the subsequent steps of submitting the required technical files that were completed before the subcommittee, as well as the work plan for 2024. So they've got it all set up and ready to go. They go on talking about facilitating trade, customs valuations, commercial, and the customs file. So it looks like that in the snippet, they said the reviewed outcomes in the 36th meeting of the recent National Committee in the presence of the heads of the WTO working group for accession to the World Trade Organization. They talked about the work plan that will be for post-accession, not pre, but post-accession. And so we're talking about that. And again, the customs valuation and customs procedures applied to determine the customs value of the imported goods is the duty, which is ad valorem or there's other ways of doing it, but the customs value is essential to determine the duty to be paid on imported goods. So that's the things that they're talking about. That was today. And we go on to see that the Ministry of, let's put it this way. The director that was part of the Ministry of the Industry, forgive me, they're talking about infrastructure projects. They're talking about the government in respect to all of the things that are associated with implementing the planning part of like electricity, right? Secondary power stations, electrical generation systems, solar cells, electric poles, all of these different things. they basically are talking about the products that include electrical, mechanical, food, pharmaceutical industries, as well as textiles, strategic industries, petrochemicals, construction, chemical industries. See what I mean? When we're talking about radical, they're talking about being all of these different things are going to be what? Part of the reconstruction process. And they even narrow it down to the filtration systems, desalination plants, chemicals, fertilizers, cement, bricks, all of the things that we've been talking about for all this time. They're openly talking about it in the news today. And what are they ready to do? They're ready to go live with all this different stuff. And let's see, this is despite promises to resume, the government bank's loans and advances were suspended. We talked about that. Why would you suspend the loans right now? You mean to tell me you're going to shut everybody off that you're trying to help? You're not going to be able to let them get that million dinars and borrow it so they can have some money? What, the Kurds didn't even bring any money to the table for a year. And they're not even showing their oil. So this audit was a big deal. And here the article says the federal hammer hits the corrupt in Kurdistan. Popular and political protests are tightening the noose on Barzani. So these are some of the things that are in the news. It says oil smuggling harmed Iraq national interests and harmed the economy because the money collected from Kurdistan goes directly into the pockets of the corrupt. It says the lawsuit's been filed or will be filed against the Prime Minister of the Kurdistan Regional Government, Masroor Barzani, in the federal court to recover saved salaries. So obviously there's a big move. The Popular Protest Committee in Suleimania arrived in Baghdad today to participate in filing the said lawsuit. So that's fascinating to see that what we've been talking about is coming full circle. And what do we have? We have these articles that we talk about and we read in Patreon. And the follow-up, the members of everybody that's in there with Dear Samson and Gigi help supporting us, do a phenomenal job in helping with all the news that we have and correlating it, collating it, all of those things. But the bottom line is that there's several factors that are basically positive indicators. With this judicial prosecutions of some of the heads financial corruption in the country that had a major role in this issue, basically stating that the next financial planning for the next 3 years budget is going to be pretty much rid of all that. They're going to be focusing on social welfare, increasing the allocations represented by monthly subsidies, the food baskets, all the things, social reform, sustainability and efficiency that they're going to be doing for the low-income families, which encourages, the living stability for all of these millions of people in Iraq. The financial accumulations from the rise in the price of the barrel of oil, all of these different things that they're talking about have and will contribute greatly to the accelerated reconstruction campaign that's been supervised by the Prime Minister and his group of advisors. So basically this matter opens up the way for the government to direct their focus, direct their focus and their surpluses towards the investment budget. And so that's the 2023 budget. And we haven't seen that 2023 budget with any spending yet. So all of these little things that I've talked about tonight and are basically a big push towards that. They are moving towards reforms. They are finishing the reforms. They are talking about accession to the WTO and into the future. But one of those things that they need to be able to take care of those salaries is an international currency exchange rate, just like the oil. They haven't started pumping to the Cyan port yet. Why? Because they haven't have a customs valuation yet. Why haven't they gone to the WTO just yet? Because the WTO is going to need what? Valuation. What did they say they were going to bring in the short term and soon is the customs valuations with the WTO. So if you pay attention, you can see how some of these solutions are radical. And what do they need? They need big movements. They're going to need real effective exchange rate. 1310 is radically different than what I believe a real effective exchange rate is. So forgive me if you think I've been misleading, but to be fair, if you're not reading all the articles to see where I get my information, maybe start doing so. Anyway, you can do that with Militiaman and Crew, and if you like this content, please hit the like and subscribe button. and then come on into Militiaman and Crew. You try it out for 30 days. It's quite simple to do. And by the way, again, we have those ways to help keep this content coming. Thank you for all your help and support. Appreciate it. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.